Welcome to South Texas Now, featuring attorney Joe A. Flores from the Flores Law Firm. He grew up right here in the Coastal Bend and became a physician's assistant, fell in love with the law, and became a lawyer. Each broadcast of South Texas Now brings you unique interviews with some of the voices that make a difference right here in South Texas. Now please enjoy this episode of South Texas Now.
Hi, welcome back to another edition of South Texas Now. I'm your co-host, Vanessa Flores, with the honor of interviewing Mr. Terry Shamsie. Hello, how are you doing today?
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
You look wonderful.
Thank you so much. I am. I'm happy to be back here in Corpus Christi. So I understand that you are running for district attorney. And so here on my version of South Texas Now, we like to emphasize the youth and politics and involvement. So can you give the younger audience here a introduction to what the district attorney does for our community?
So the district attorney basically is the prosecutor that enters the courtroom and represents the victim and seeks justice. You know, some fair resolution. If they can't reach an agreement, then they have a trial on the case. And so they represent the part of the courtroom that prosecutes the defendant for what is he or she alleged to have done wrong.
Oh, okay. I completely understand. So what made you want to run for this position?
I'm old. So I've done everything else, right?
Right.
I was county judge. I was Court 5, which is juvenile CPS judge for 2 years. I've been a practicing lawyer for well over 35 years. Most of it was criminal defense work. A few cases I was appointed as a special prosecutor, but most of my work would be criminal defense. And so now you kind of graduate as you get older to new challenges. This is a challenge. I think I'm qualified, and I think that the public probably needs quality people to serve as a DA and the judgeships. We seem to be lacking in that area.
Wow. Well, thank you for wanting to honor the community and serve the people. So do you believe that your experience with you working as an attorney, how do you believe that will benefit you as the running for district attorney?
Okay. So a long time ago, like real long, in the 80s, they had jail overcrowding, and the criminal justice system was a big deal. What to do with jail overcrowding, what to do with sentencing violent criminals, non-violent criminals. And so since the late 80s to now, over that 40-year span, I've seen all the changes, some good, some bad, and the results, what you thought would be a good result, maybe turned out bad on the changes in the law and sentencing and how to handle certain cases. So now we see an emphasis on mental health. You know, in the 80s and 90s, that never entered the picture. Right? Now we see an emphasis on small drug offenders to get them treatment. Before, you know, for less than a gram of cocaine, you were looking at 2 to 20 years in the penitentiary. And now the sentence is a lot lower, with emphasis being that let's get this person help. Let's make sure they get some treatment so that they'll stop their use of the drug. Right? And so it's a different approach. The one thing that hasn't changed too much is white-collar crime prosecution. There's almost nothing that has occurred in the last 40 years at our level, the DA's level, to address that. And that is probably one of the pressing issues of the disproportionate prosecution for white-collar crime versus what we call blue-collar crime, the working person's crime.
Can you explain the differences, or what exactly is white-collar crime for our audience members who may not understand what that means?
Sure. White-collar crime would be your sophisticated individual who commits a financial crime, right?
Right.
So maybe money laundering, maybe fraud. A lot of people fall suspect giving out personal information, right?
Right.
Then they raid their bank accounts, or they cheat the elderly. And so that is kind of what we call white collar. Right? Mm-hmm. because it doesn't involve a gun. It doesn't involve really even meeting the person.
Right.
The fraud can be done over line, over the internet.
Yes, especially now with technology and everything.
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure most people have fallen
into that category. Yes.
And so the blue collar we generally talk about is going to be someone that steals your car, someone that breaks into your house, breaks into your car, robs a store. That's going to be what we call the blue collar one.
Okay. Well, I love the fact that you say that you have a lot of history within politics and law here in Nueces County, so you can bring those different perspectives of what used to occur, but now, as you mentioned, the mental health, and be able to incorporate both in your leadership position to incorporate the foundations of what they used to, how they used to treat individuals, and now incorporate the newer emphasis on mental health, which is very important now in our generation. So do you believe in order to participate in politics locally or even nationally, do you think that for individuals who may think you just have to be an attorney, what is your view on that?
To be in politics or to get involved in politics, you have to have the desire to seek some kind of change. It could be, the way they don't take care of the streets, right? Or maybe pollution, or, there's so many different issues in politics that drive people. And so the quality of the person in politics generally lies to their heart. They're really vested in that issue. So you might have someone that's invested in preservation of the wetlands.
Right.
They're really not too much involved in the DA's race, right?
Right.
It's not their gig. You can have someone involved in the courthouse and the judiciary that has nothing to do with wildlife preservation, right? Or windmills, or the desal plants. All those side issues, they're all really important. So if you have an interest in any social issue, you should get involved, because you probably know a lot more than the average person in politics.
Right.
Because that's your desire.
And you're passionate about it, so you find ways to just discover more and more about it. Wow, that's very encouraging to any individuals who may have an interest in a social issue or, political issue that they really are passionate about. Just get involved. So what is your take on the importance of local politics? Why is it important to get out not only during the presidential election cycle, but especially in local politics? We see the signs all around Corpus Christi in the streets, and you may not even know what that's for or what it means. So why do you think it's important for them, for the youth and for every age, to get involved with local politics?
It's important because it affects your life, right? And you want to get involved before it affects your life, right? To help steer the policy, right? Because the one thing that people that run for public office fears the most is the person who is voting, right?
Right.
Because if you can't listen to them and help them out or understand their position, then you're not going to get elected, right? So you have to listen to them. And generally, in any conversation we enter into, we have a position. We already know our position. And then I have a conversation with you, and because of your background, your age, and your experience, you give me a different viewpoint, which will affect my final viewpoint. Because I will say, I never thought of it that way. One example is I was... being old, we say, what is wrong with the youth today? They don't work, right? This is our theory that
that we're lazy and sit on the couch and
yes, right. And it was real unique because I talked to one of my daughters, and she told me, here's the problem with the elderly. You all work 60, 80 hours a week, and you're never at home. Right. We want a balanced life. We think our health is important, our mental health is important, our ability to enjoy life now. And we can still work 30, 40 hours a week, right? And we work smarter. And we work much more efficient than you do. Right? And that is true, because you have a better
understanding
of technology, right?
And what's going on, right?
Sure, we fumbled trying to find the phone, and y'all whipped through it and got the deal done. So, and it was a learning process because, I started researching that and reading it, and I thought, these young adults are smarter than us. They have figured out how to use technology and how to live a balanced life. And I think they're much happier and healthier.
Right.
And so that, I think that's what the youth has to offer. So they need to bring that to politics. They need to bring that to their community, that they have a lot to offer. Because we're kind of like on the backside, right?
Right.
We're trying to finish up. Y'all are just starting.
Right. So if we try to incorporate the two with the young getting involved, there can be a mesh.
That's right.
And then the older and the newer perspective can come together. And I also think a lot of our new perspective has to do with the pandemic. We had to learn how to adapt very quickly, grow up from home. So I think that's really what emphasizes that new, happier, healthier perspective that a lot of us may have. Finally, I would like to ask you, as a female myself, what is your view and encouragement for the women here in Nueces County and all over who may be seeing this, who are maybe hesitant to get involved in politics?
Well, first, when I started and I went to college, 2 out of every 3 individuals going to college were male. Mm-hmm. Women represented about 30%. Now the numbers have switched, right? Now it's at most college campuses, it's almost 2/3 women, 1/3 men, right? And so the women are getting educated, much more so, formal education, much more so than the male counterpart. There was a report I read that said a young male can fail 10 times in business.
Right.
But every time that person fails, that male, it's never his fault. He'll say, well, it was bad weather. That's what caused me to fail. Or this, it's always some other thing. They never say that they're a failure.
Right. Accountability.
Accountability. So they kept their dream alive, right? By saying, I'm going to try again. Whereas some of the younger females, if they failed, they'll look inside and say, well, it's my fault.
Right.
So it takes them longer to get out of that psyche.
Right.
So for the young females out there, professional, I always say, take a risk, take a chance, right?
Right. We were even talking about take a risk of what you want to do.
Don't be hesitant. Don't be shy. I tell my daughters all the time, you have time about the age of 30, 35 where you kind of want to sink into a career. Enjoy life, have life experiences, follow what you love to do. Don't chase the money. The money will chase you. Right. And take chances, travel, and don't let the limitation of what everybody else is doing, don't fall into that trap.
Right.
You only have one life. Lead it.
Right.
And you're much more talented than you realize. Much more talented.
Wow.
I know you've traveled a lot. Okay, so, I never started traveling outside the States until my 30s. So you're not 30 yet, and you've been all over. So that tells you you're much more diverse, better life experiences at a very young age. So by the time you get into your 40s, you're going to have 20 more years experience than I had when I became county judge. So I encourage you to get out there, take the risk.
Thank you for those words of encouragement.
Yes,
well, like we like to talk here on South Texas Now about taking risks, like Mr. Shamsie said, we always say that try to experience as much as you can within your abilities. If that means, going down and experiencing and trying to discover what the courthouse is, or researching a topic that you're passionate about, that'll give you more experience. There is no limitation to what you truly are ambitious about. Well, we thank you so much for being here today and discussing everything with us.
It's good to see you again.
Thank you for joining us on South Texas Now.
Hi, this is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores. I grew up in South Texas just like you. I was a newspaper boy in Alice, Texas, and then I went into healthcare. And I've transferred those healthcare skills, taking care of the sickest of the sick. And I use that compassion, and I also use it to also try to understand my clients who are hurt, injured, permanently disfigured, call me and get that empathy you need. 361-887-8670. And welcome to another episode of South Texas Now. We're doing something a little bit different. We're passing the baton off to my co-host, Vanessa Flores. Welcome, Vanessa. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. And I also have Judge Joe Benavides. He's seeking to be your judge again. And today we're going to talk about saving our youth as well as the working man's court. You don't need a lawyer to be in there, and it's important. So I know you've got to get back to the courthouse. So let's start off. Vanessa, would you like to lead about the youth and any questions you may have?
Yes. What are the most pressing issues that you believe and see that are facing the youth, high schoolers today?
I think the most important issue right now is the vaping. The out-of-control vaping, and what I've done is married up with the American Heart Association, and what we're doing is contracting with or making contact with CCISD, Cal Allen, Toulouse ISDs on the harmful effects of vaping, and educating the kids about how harmful vaping is.
Right.
Well, when you bring that up, Vanessa brings up a great point. Oftentimes, parents, the knowledge deficit, they don't know the difference between nicotine, vaping, marijuana, now with gummies, things like that. There's almost an occult or hidden drug usage that parents can't see, can't smell. They don't know what's going on. So how do you handle that?
Okay, so first and foremost, on vaping, you have issues like peer pressure, bullying, and I think these kids, once you see a truant student, then you know that there's something more, that's involved in them not going to school. And that's, of course, vaping, the drugs, the bullying, the peer pressure. And we just try to educate the kids on vaping, on bullying, on, drugs in school. All that stuff is not tolerated, and it's about educating our kids. That's pretty much what it is. And I let the parents know that they are accountable to their children. And of course, the family law, family law says the parents are accountable to their kids to have shelter, to have clothing, to make sure that they are in school. That's the law.
Right.
And all we do is try to, what I try to do is to instill the parents on their responsibilities. And they're doing the best they can. You can't really point fingers at one sole person for that child, but it's just, they say it takes a whole village to make sure a child is successful. And I think that we have to get the schools involved, the parents involved, all the other nonprofit entities involved, so we can ensure that our children graduate from high school.
Well, Vanessa, I had a question for you. You're in college. How prevalent is vaping in college?
Well, it's pretty much everywhere, and especially with college, there's a lot of 21-year-olds. You have mommy and daddy not there to look after you, and so you have much more freedom with what you choose to do. And so I think it's very important what you're doing, trying to instill it in middle school, high school, because I see that middle schoolers, at a very young age starting to smoke, and it's very sad, but I think it's important that you're emphasizing at such a young age, because sometimes when you hear it from a higher authority, something, you're not necessarily being scolded or anything, but you're just pushing them in the right direction. It could be helpful to remember, at times when they're with in a situation of bullying or harassment, to hear that little voice inside their head maybe, or remember when you had spoken to them, to be, it's not just my parents who were telling me I told you so, or getting after them, but it was somebody else who's not part of my family, not part of my inner circle, actually caring about me. You know what I mean? Because it's not your principal, shoving it down your throat that you can't do this or can't do that, but it's another figure in the community who actually, cares for you, cares for your well-being, wants you to finish school.
Exactly.
Yes.
And and Vanessa, vaping, you go to bigger things from vaping.
Right.
And vaping, the nicotine that's in there on those cartridges, you're talking about 249 different chemicals that it produces. So, it's harmful to the brain, it's harmful to the lungs, and it's harmful to the heart. So, these kids need to understand that, the parents need to understand that, and it's just education. Try to, to push that into the kids and tell them, look, this is not cool, it's not good for you, stop it.
Right.
Well, and what are the punishments that can be meted out? And I want to focus in on those people that just simply are getting by paycheck to paycheck. Their child is in full rebellion. Right now, everybody's on one knee economically. What are some remedies that don't necessarily punish and cripple the family financially and put them in a deeper hole that you use? I know that you've done some unique sort of programs.
Yes. First and foremost, the tobacco awareness videos from the state of Texas. So that's the first step, like I said, education. So it is a educational tool I use, which is the awareness of tobacco, and mandatory that they have to make sure that they take that course, bring that certificate back to my courtroom, and then, it's a 60-day probational period for them to make sure they don't get into any other issues with the law. And right. And it's good. It's it's very the videos they have on tobacco awareness, very positive, and it shows the student exactly the harmful effects of tobacco and vaping.
Well, when we're looking at the law and order, and you're bringing a child into the system, sometimes they're not accustomed to taking authority and rebel. What sort of unique situations have you seen in court where you really had to set limits with a child out of control?
Well, a large majority of juveniles are rebellious.
Right.
And parents are parents really are pretty much not really wanting to understand what their kids are going through. And some are in denial, where they say, no, my son, my daughter is not vaping. And I get the kids telling me straight up that they're vaping, and in front of their parents. So those are things that I look at, and I believe that as long as I am fair but firm and let them know that, look, the longer you do this, you're going to end up with a lot of situations later on in your future. Better for you just to cut it off.
Right.
And the other issue is we talked about the working man coming into your court from an 18-year-old getting to become an adult and renting a space to people that have been ripped off by somebody up to what, 20,000 you handle. Yes. So even lawyers are doing car crashes in your court. It's evolved from, and a lot of people don't know you set bonds for very serious crimes. So let's focus on that for a moment. Your other duties in the adult world.
Yes, we're dual. We do two jobs, which is the justice of the peace, and also we magistrate.
Right.
We magistrate crimes that are committed in Nueces County. So that's very important, very serious. And as a justice of the peace, we got to make definitely sure that our neighborhoods, our communities are safe from hardcore criminals. And so it's just setting that bond and making definitely sure that they'll have their day in court and appear in front of that judge. And the other part is that the evictions, we follow the statute on evictions and property code. And that, tells us exactly what we can and cannot do as justice of the peace.
Well, Vanessa, I know you had some questions regarding young adults and the problems they face. What do you have for the judge?
So I just wonder what, are the different approaches that you have to use since you have been in office for a very long time. What challenges do you face with the new and upcoming problems, vaping, mental health awareness issues that are now very prevalent? How do you kind of handle those differences that we're now facing, especially post-COVID, with how you handle, the juveniles?
Well, what I do, first and foremost, once again, is that community service is a big impact for me and a great impact for the juveniles. And I have a program called Mowing Lawns for Seniors. I have also a program that has a vast majority of the juveniles that have been filed on that will show up on a Saturday, Sunday at McGee Beach, and we pick up litter. And I'm always there to supervise these kids. And the parents are pretty much supportive of me when they see me out there with the kids. And not do we just go straight into the mowing lawns for seniors or picking up litter. I first talk to them about a good 30 minutes before we start off, and I bring leadership throughout the city to speak to these kids, females and males, from the CCPD, from the Sheriff's Department, from the Marine Corps, from the Army, U.S. Army, from the Navy. And these females and males, they speak to the kids about, let's do what's right. Why would you be here on a Saturday with the judge picking up, litter?
Right.
Or why are you here mowing lawns for seniors that don't have the ability to mow their own lawns? And so I have approximately about 50 to 100 kids and parents that are out there helping me trying to encourage these kids not to be vaping, not to be minors in possession.
Right.
All sorts of fighting, bullying. They're all Class C misdemeanors, and it's and what I do, I believe, is that the community service is something a big impact to these kids when I speak to them, and have other leadership throughout Corpus Christi speak to these kids.
Right. I think that's important to show that, the leaders in our community are on their side. They want what's good for them. They're willing to come out on their weekend and be able to talk, with the kids, to be able to emphasize, your future is important. Your future matters, and what you do now are, the stepping stones to how you will be in the future, and how you represent your family and everything like that is so important to nip in the butt, right now.
Well, Vanessa, as a judge, I don't have to be out there, but I love my job. I love connecting with these young kids, and I see them later on, 5-10 years from now, and they come up to me and they thank me. And sometimes they tell me, "Man, I thought you were like the meanest judge."
Right.
And no, I'm a people's judge. I deal with veterans. I deal with the single parent environment. I deal with the juveniles, and that's what I'm all about. Trying to make something in a bad situation to a good situation, and making sure they're productive citizens of society. That's the bottom line.
Well, we've run out of time, but I want to thank Vanessa Flores for co-hosting, as always, and executive producing this show. And remember, Judge Joe Benavides, your judge, place one, and he is doing a phenomenal job with our children and also giving you your day in court. We've run out of time. Bill Dunlap, our boss, is pulling the cane and pulling me off stage. We've got to go. Thank you all, and God bless.
You've been watching South Texas Now, featuring Joe A. Flores from the Flores Law Firm. For questions and comments, please call 361-887-8670 or visit floreslawfirm.com.